Unlocking Wellbeing on Drive.
It's that time again to look at all sorts of aspects of mental health and well-being as our lives start to return to normal a little bit, or some kind of normal anyway. And we're doing this sort of link to the various stages of unlocking, which is why it's called Unlocking Wellbeing, because the pandemic has affected us all in different ways, hasn't it? And we're here to try and help you through it all, whether it's getting more active again, meeting up with friends and family again, going back into the world, dating, relationships. We've got you covered on all of that. So you might have had your hair cut, you might have been getting back in the gym maybe, you might have bought yourself some new clothes, but do you feel ready to enter the world of dating again? And actually, if you are, what's the etiquette now in the world of social distancing? It's also very different. So here to help us through the potential minefield is Alix Fox, who writes and broadcasts on all things sex and relationships, among other things. She's a script consultant on the hugely popular Netflix show Sex Education. Hi, Alix.
Hello, it's more delightful than Sunny Delight, Turkish Delight and Angel Delight to join you today.
I'm so glad you're here. I'm looking forward to this chat. And Tom Rogers is with us as well, who is a teacher, set up his own dating website during lockdown called Edudate. He's been described as education's own Cilla Black. You might remember him from The Extra Mile last year. Hello again, Tom.
Hi, Anna. You okay?
I'm well. It's lovely to talk to you again. And do get in touch as well. 85058 at BBC 5 Live. Any questions you have, any advice you maybe need. Because Alix, you know, dating at the best of times can be a difficult thing. But when, for some of us, we seem to have lost all of our social skills and, you know, the ability to actually be out in the world, it's going to make things even harder, isn't it?
Yeah, a heck of a lot of people have, while they've been stuck under their own roofs, their nerves have gone through the roof about the prospect of actually getting out there and dating face to face all over again. I think it's really important that we talk constructively about the fact that even though there's actually a lot of excitement and anticipation about being able to be intimate and romantic outside in a social context again, there are also a significant amount of people for whom that's making them feel very, very vulnerable and is having quite a negative impact on their mental health. We need to make sure that those people feel recognised and that we're talking openly about those confrontational issues.
Yeah. Do you know, when it comes to dates, one thing that I've found, and I've been married for a long time now, so it's a very long time since I went on a date, but just in general in the sort of social world, I've got no small talk anymore. You know, when you sort of chat about what you've been up to, but nobody's been up to anything. So if I sort of put that in the context of a date, and I imagine for a lot of people it's the same, you know, what do you talk about?
I've got no small talk, medium talk or big talk at the moment. I have two tips on that front. The first is prepare something to chat straight off the bat. Have some topics prepared to talk about because for a start, that means that you don't automatically go down the path of talking about COVID, which for a lot of people can feel a bit depressing and despondent. And it also makes you feel a little bit more confident at a time when, for a lot of us, for the last 365 days or more, we've been doing the square root of diddly squat. For a lot of us, our worlds have got smaller. Our usual hobbies and entertainment have been taken away. Life's got a little bit more dull and boring, and so we might not have that much to talk about if we're trying to pull topics out of thin air. So actually contemplating some things to talk about before you go on a date is a good idea. One thing that I've found quite helpful is asking somebody what the last internet rabbit hole they fell down was, because not only can that be fascinating, but it can be very, very revealing as well about what it says about your date. Yeah. And the second thing is to call out the elephant in the room, by which I don't mean commenting on your date's potential lockdown weight gain. I mean, if it feels awkward, acknowledge that it's awkward. Say, oh, this feels a bit strange, doesn't it? I'm still practicing having face-to-face conversations with strangers. Sometimes just calling out the cringe can take away some of that, some of the cringe itself. It helps to dilute it a bit.
Yeah, no, I bet it does actually, because I suppose, you know, Tom, when teachers have met on Edudate and they go on their dates, at least, you know, you've got one thing in common. But then having said that, do you want, you know, if you're on a date with a teacher, you probably don't want to talk about teaching the whole time, do you?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I mean, I think we talked about this when I was on with you last time, which was quite a while ago now. It's probably nearly a year ago, but
yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. But we, on Edudate, on the events we've done, so we've done like one speed dating event each month, basically, up until now, but we're changing the format actually very soon, in the next few days, actually. I'll tell you about that later. But basically, I think it's very difficult. So therefore, we set questions for people to ask each other within a 10-minute speed date, online speed date. So things like non-stop conversation or comfortable silences. So we give these prompts and then basically we say, ask each other these 5 questions. You've got 10 minutes, stick to the time limit. And within that it's a speed dating format, basically. So they have their 10 minutes and then they both keep to that 10 minutes. And then, that reduces the awkwardness, because then if you've run out of things to say, then 10 minutes isn't so bad, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you've got a record. I mean, obviously not everybody matches up, but some do. Lily's on the line. Hi, Lily.
Yes.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Now, you took part in the very first Edudate last April.
Yes.
I'm going to let you share how it went rather than stealing your thunder. Tell us what happened.
So Tom brilliantly set up Edudate, and I thought, why not? There's something to do during the pandemic, early days of the pandemic, and I had, various 10-minute video dates, which was lovely. Lots of good conversations, lots of really nice people. Then afterwards, we had to choose whether to match and carry on talking with the people that we'd been speaking to, and I said I would like to match with one of them. And it turned out that we already followed each other on Twitter, which was really nice. And we just went on from there, really. And I mean, the long and short of it, I could go on for hours, obviously, is that a year later, we now live together.
Oh, that's such a nice story. It makes me feel all warm inside. It's like sort of, you are the Cilla Black, clearly, Tom, teaching. When you get results like that.
It's quite coincidental. She has ginger hair and it's nearly as short as mine, and that's the comparison, But yes, I am the Cilla Black of education, apparently.
What was it, Lily, that you think helped you get on with him so well? Was it the fact that you were both teachers, or if he'd been doing something else entirely, would that still have worked? Was it just about you as people?
I think it was a really positive thing, that the teaching side of it, because, having spent years kind of trawling through all the various dating apps, I think to have someone who really understood, what the nature of the job, the holidays, the admin, there's loads and loads of positives. Occasionally there's hard bits as well. And to have someone who really understood that. And also it made it easy having the video date with the 10 minutes, because you knew you were going to have something to talk about, in as much as, have you got any funny stories to share? What's your favourite part of teaching? There was an in, I think, with the fact that we were both teaching.
Yeah. Alix, what do you think about that? Because obviously for some people, to be with somebody who does a similar job is a fantastic thing. And for others, it can be better to just be somebody who does something completely different, can't it?
Well, my sister is a teacher. She's very happily married, but I enjoy her comedy stories of her pupils drawing inappropriate things on the slides during Zoom lectures. And she sent me a brilliant voice note, actually, of one of the young people that she engages with, just being incredibly frank about why she hadn't done her homework. And it was because she just was very, very comfortable in bed and didn't want to get out from underneath the covers. So I think, teachers have plenty to talk to each other about. My partner also works in media, and I find that his understanding of the sometimes tricky hours that I work, and also our shared passion for our jobs, definitely makes us compatible. But sometimes it can mean that neither of us actually are very boundaried about how much we let our work life interfere with our personal life. So sometimes having a bit of a yin-yang relationship with somebody whose career is very different to yours not only means that you have different things to bring to the table, but their perspective on how much your career should influence your love life can be very healthy. Speaking about whether you should date somebody who is your type or works in your field or not, I think one of the most interesting trends to have to be sort of that's coming out at the moment while we're examining how people might date as the world opens up a bit more, is that even though we can now or soon will be able to meet face to face in an entertaining space, a lot of people, 61% according to the dating app Hinge, have said that they will still use video dating as a kind of quote unquote spark check before they meet up with somebody in real life. And one of the other trends that's come out of video dating is that according to another survey, this one was a Virgin Media one, almost half of people said that because a digital date felt like it was lower stakes, they would be more likely to give somebody who they wouldn't usually consider a chance. I find that really heartwarming. The fact that we've all had to rely more on our laptops and screening dates through our screens has actually meant that we might be more open-hearted and more open-minded as we move into a more open world.
That is interesting, actually, because, I was going to ask, in terms of we've been hearing about people who have maybe had relationships that have just been exclusively online so far because they haven't been able to meet people. And at the moment, you can meet somebody outside. But am I right in thinking, Alix, that the way things are at the moment, the way the rules are at the moment, unless you're sort of properly bubbled with somebody, you can't actually go into anybody's house yet, can you? So you might have a nice date with someone, but you wouldn't be able to go home with them, if you know what I mean.
As I understand it, yeah, unless that person becomes part of your personal bubble, which might mean kicking somebody out of it and bursting their bubble in the process.
Replacing them.
Strictly no, you're not allowed to shack up with anybody, which has led to another trend that's being speculated about, which is that, again, as the world opens up and we are allowed to let's say, get intimate with people once again, quite a few experts are predicting that we might see a renaissance of the Roaring Twenties, of Roaring Twenties, the sequel, if you will, as a result of lots of people who, if they've been following the guidelines, haven't been able to have intimate affairs with anybody for over a year, are now going to embrace the fact that they can get physical with absolute gusto. There was a study that was carried out by two psychologists called Mark McCormack and Liam Wignall that examined around 550 young adults between the ages of 18 and 32. And they found that lots of them had felt so oppressed and repressed by the COVID pandemic that now they're predicting that people are going to go a little bit wild, potentially. And they've been speculating on how we as a society and how services like sexual health services and mental health services are going to potentially need to prepare for that. And there's historical evidence that this is likely to be the case. The epidemiologist, Dr. Nicholas Christakis, was talking about in a recent Guardian article what happened after the 1918 flu pandemic. We saw the Roaring Twenties then. He's actually forecast that he thinks that things won't get into full flush and full flow until around 2024, when there's been hopefully some time for some socioeconomic repair. But one way or another, for a proportion of people, it looks like things are going to go from depressingly mild to wonderfully wild. And we do need to be prepared for that as a society.
Yeah, it's all quite 0 to 60, isn't it? And
Precisely.
Tom, it is, isn't it? And Tom, are you, obviously Edudate's doing really well. Are you doing that sort of full time now? Are you still doing teaching as well? How's it working?
Yeah, I've been in school today. So I'm teaching 3 days a week, history teaching. I'm doing Edudate a bit on the side. We've also been inspired, Tony and Anna, by your good selves to set up Teachers Talk Radio, which is like teachers talking about teaching. It's like an online radio station. So I'm doing like other things as well as Edudate. But yeah, I'm still teaching 3 days a week in a school near Liverpool, still teaching history. So interesting times.
Yeah. Am I allowed to ask about your own love life, or would you rather I
knew that was coming. No,
well, do you know you're allowed to say no. You're allowed to say no.
No, I'm in a relationship now. So I'm very tentative because my love life, as I think I alluded to with you both last time we spoke, has been a bit of a disaster at times. So I'm very tentative in anything that I say, especially here.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I understand that entirely. But it's good to hear that it's going well. And also, in fact, Alex, you've got a really nice story because you kind of, I was going to say, it sort of it was a rekindling for you during lockdown, wasn't it?
And it's been a very wonderfully fiery one, yeah. My ex-partner, who always felt like the perfectly, wonderfully right person at the wrong time. We originally split up because he'd been previously married and due to the circumstances of his breakup, he had very understandable nervousness about fully committing to somebody again. I came along when he was still a little bit tender and raw, I think. But during lockdown and during periods of self-isolation for him, it gave him the chance to reflect, and he actually sought some therapy and some mental health support to work through those historical elements of his story that were maybe holding him back a bit. And asked me out again, and we're moving in together on June the 9th. And we have a rather lovely souvenir that's unique to the pandemic times, I think. During our first socially distanced date, where we were allowed to go for a walk with each other, I set a photo challenge where to give us something to talk about, because as previously discussed, both of us have been sitting twiddling our thumbs for a lot of the time alone at home. I challenged us to take a series of 25 pictures based on various ridiculous themes. I then painted some of those pictures to make a card for him, and we're going to have that framed and put on the wall in our new home.
Oh, how lovely. You see, that's exactly the heartwarming tale. No, it's not nauseating. No, I love a bit of love, Alex. That's exactly what we needed to end on. It's so nice to talk to you both. Thank you so much. Alix Fox, who writes and broadcasts on all things sex and relationships, and Tom Rogers as well, the brains behind Edudate and friend of the show.
Yes, indeed. It was good to hear that. Just